The family meeting that evening took place in the Wales family's private sitting room, a space designed for comfort and intimacy rather than formal protocol. Prince Louis sat cross-legged on a plush carpet, surrounded by his favorite books and a few carefully chosen toys, while his parents occupied nearby chairs. Marcus positioned himself discreetly near the door, close enough to participate in the conversation, but maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. Princess Charlotte and Prince George had been briefed separately, age-appropriately, about enhanced security measures without being told about their younger brother's supernatural experiences. The complexity of managing what each child needed to know while protecting them all from unnecessary anxiety was a challenge that Prince William and Catherine had navigated with remarkable wisdom. "Louis," Prince William began, his tone gentle but serious, "we want to talk with you about the special conversations you've been having with Grandmother Diana." Louis looked up from the picture book he had been examining, his expression showing no surprise at the topic. "Are you worried about them, Papa?" "Because you don't need to be. She's very kind, and she only wants to help keep us safe." Catherine leaned forward, her maternal instincts evident in her posture. "We're not worried, sweetheart. We're actually very proud of how grown-up and responsible you've been about sharing what Grandmother Diana tells you. But we want to make sure you understand how important and special these conversations are." "I do understand, Mama. She explained it to me. She said that not many people can hear from relatives who have gone to heaven, and that it's a special gift that comes with special responsibilities." Marcus was struck again by the 8-year-old's remarkable maturity in discussing concepts that would challenge many adults. Prince William continued, "Louis, we've learned that the information Grandmother Diana shared with you about dangerous people in the palace was completely accurate. Because you were brave enough to tell Mr. Marcus what you heard, we were able to protect our whole family from people who wanted to hurt us." Louis nodded seriously. "She told me that would happen. She said the grown-ups would investigate and find the bad people, and that everyone would be safer afterward." "Did she say anything else about what might happen next?" Catherine asked. "Yes, but it was a bit confusing. She said there would be more challenges, but also more help. She said that sometimes when people try to hurt good families, it makes other good people work together in ways they hadn't before." Louis paused, concentrating on remembering the exact words. "She also said something about a big test coming for our whole family, but that we would pass it because we love each other and have people like Mr. Marcus helping us." Marcus felt a chill at these words. Lady Thornton's intelligence about a broader conspiracy targeting the monarchy suggested that Louis's prediction about upcoming challenges was likely accurate. Prince William exchanged glances with Catherine before continuing. "Louis, we want you to know that if Grandmother Diana visits you again, or if you hear or see anything that worries you or seems important, you can always tell us or Mr. Marcus. We will always believe you, and we will always take what you share seriously." "I know that, Papa. She told me you would say that too." Louis smiled with the confidence of a child who felt completely secure in his family's love and support. Catherine moved to sit on the floor beside her youngest son. "Sweetheart, how do you feel when Grandmother Diana talks with you? Are you ever scared or confused?" "Oh no, Mama. She feels like sunshine and hugs. When she's there, it's like having the safest, warmest feeling in the whole world. She makes me feel like everything will be all right, even when there are problems to solve." The simple beauty of this description brought tears to Catherine's eyes, while Prince William struggled visibly with his emotions. For him, these conversations represented both the answer to decades of longing for his mother's presence and the bittersweet reality that his youngest child was experiencing something he himself could never share. "Louis," Marcus spoke for the first time, "Her Royal Highness mentioned that I would be spending more time with you from now on. How do you feel about that?" "I think it's brilliant." Louis's face lit up with enthusiasm. "Grandmother Diana said you're exactly the right person to help me understand how to use my special gift properly. She said you're brave and smart, and that you care more about doing what's right than about what other people think." Marcus felt the weight of this trust settling over him once again. "I promise to do my best to help you, Your Highness." "She also said something else about you, Mr. Marcus." Louis's expression became more thoughtful. "She said that helping me would help you understand something important about yourself, something that would make you even better at protecting people." This comment puzzled Marcus, but before he could ask for clarification, Prince William's secure phone rang. The timing, late in the evening and during a family meeting, suggested urgent business. "Excuse me," Prince William said, stepping away to answer the call privately. Marcus could see the prince's expression grow grave as he listened to whoever was on the other end. The conversation lasted several minutes, with Prince William asking brief questions and receiving what appeared to be lengthy explanations. When he returned to the group, his demeanor had shifted to full professional mode. That was Inspector Collins. The intelligence Lady Thornton provided has led to the discovery of something quite serious. There's credible evidence of a coordinated plan to create a major incident during the King's speech to Parliament next week. Catherine immediately moved into protective mode. What kind of incident? The details are still being investigated, but it appears to involve manufactured disruptions both inside Parliament and in several locations around London, designed to create the impression of widespread unrest and instability. The goal seems to be forcing constitutional discussions about the monarchy's future role. Louis, who had been listening to this exchange with the intensity that had become characteristic of his responses to serious matters, suddenly sat up straighter. "Papa, Grandmother Diana wants me to tell you something right now." The room fell silent immediately, everyone's attention focused on the young prince. "She says the bad people are planning to make it look like someone in our family said something we didn't really say. She says they have technology that can make fake recordings of people's voices saying things that sound real, but aren't true. She says to tell the grown-ups to be very careful about any recordings that appear in the next few days." Prince William immediately picked up his secure phone and began typing a message. "Marcus, Collins needs to know about this immediately. If they're planning to use deep fake technology to create false statements attributed to members of the royal family, it adds an entirely new dimension to the threat." As Prince William stepped away again to make additional calls, Catherine pulled Louis close to her. "Did Grandmother Diana say anything else about staying safe during this difficult time?" "She said the most important thing is for our family to stay close together and to trust the people who have proven they care about us. She also said something about Mr. Marcus that I think is important." Marcus felt everyone's attention turn to him. "What did she say, Your Highness?" "She said that very soon, you're going to have to make a choice between following rules and protecting people. She said that when that moment comes, you should remember that protecting people is always the most important rule, even if other grown-ups don't understand that at first." Marcus felt a chill of premonition. Princess Diana's previous warnings had been remarkably specific and accurate. If she was preparing him for a situation where protocol might conflict with protection, he needed to be ready for difficult decisions. Prince William returned from his calls, his expression showing both determination and concern. The security services are implementing emergency protocols. The King's speech has been moved to a secure location, and there will be enhanced protection for all senior royals for the foreseeable future. He sat back down, looking at his youngest son with a mixture of amazement and paternal worry. "Louis, did Grandmother Diana say anything about how long these difficult times might last?" "She said it would be intense for a little while, but then things would get much better. She said that sometimes when bad people try to hurt good families, it makes the good families stronger and brings them closer to other people who want to help them." Louis paused, his expression becoming almost ethereal. "She also said to tell you that she's very proud of how you and Mama are protecting us, and that she's not worried because she knows you'll make the right choices when it matters most." Catherine wiped away new tears at this message from her late mother-in-law, while Prince William struggled with his own emotions. The evening continued with practical discussions about enhanced security protocols, modified schedules, and additional protective measures. Throughout these conversations, Marcus found himself observing Prince Louis carefully. The boy participated in age-appropriate discussions while demonstrating an understanding of the gravity of the situation that went far beyond his 8 years. As the meeting concluded and the family prepared for bedtime routines, Prince William pulled Marcus aside for a private conversation. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. What's happening with Louis goes beyond anything we've ever dealt with as a family. If my mother is indeed providing intelligence about threats to our security, then Louis has become one of our most valuable assets for protecting this family and the institution of the monarchy." Marcus nodded, understanding the profound implications. At the same time, he's still an 8-year-old boy who needs to run and play and laugh and live as normal a childhood as possible. Your job is to help him balance these two realities, to be available when he needs to share something important, but also to ensure that this gift doesn't overwhelm his ability to simply be a child. "I understand, sir. That balance will be my priority." Prince William looked toward the door through which Louis had just departed, heading to his bedroom with Catherine for their nightly routine. "He seems to trust you completely, Marcus. That trust is precious, and it may be crucial to our family's safety in the days ahead." As Marcus made his way back to his quarters that evening, he reflected on the extraordinary transformation his life had undergone in just a few weeks. He had gone from being a competent but conventional royal protection officer to serving as confidant and guide for a child who received supernatural intelligence from one of the most beloved figures in royal history. The challenges ahead, based on the intelligence they had received, would test everyone involved. Marcus found himself preparing mentally for decisions that might require him to prioritize protection over protocol, exactly as Princess Diana had warned through Louis. Looking out his window at the palace grounds, peaceful in the evening darkness, Marcus offered a quiet prayer of gratitude for the extraordinary trust that had been placed in him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and possibly new revelations, but tonight he felt prepared to face whatever came next in service of protecting a remarkable family, and the young boy whose impossible gift had become their greatest shield against those who wished them harm. The next morning would mark the beginning of the most critical week in recent royal history, and Marcus understood that his role in these events was just beginning. Princess Diana's guidance had saved her family once. Now it remained to be seen what other wisdom she might provide as the forces arrayed against the monarchy prepared to make their final moves. The mysterious visitor arrived precisely at 4 o'clock, just as the urgent message had indicated. Marcus watched from his position in the security command center as cameras tracked a dark sedan through the palace gates. The vehicle bore diplomatic plates, but the passenger who emerged was not immediately recognizable to the palace security database. The individual was a woman in her 60s, impeccably dressed in a navy suit that spoke of understated elegance rather than ostentation. Her silver hair was styled in a practical but sophisticated manner, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to moving in powerful circles. What struck Marcus most was the expression on her face as she looked up at the palace facade, not the typical awe of a first-time visitor, but something that resembled homecoming mixed with profound sadness. "Sir," the communications officer addressed Inspector Collins, who had arrived in the command center moments earlier. "The visitor has been cleared through preliminary security. She's provided identification as Lady Margaret Thornton and is requesting a private audience with His Royal Highness. She claims to have been a close personal friend of the late Princess of Wales." Collins frowned, checking her tablet for any reference to this name in royal contact databases. "Marcus, does that name mean anything to you? You were here during Princess Diana's time." Marcus searched his memory carefully. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it in any specific context. "Nothing concrete, ma'am, but something about it seems familiar. She's insisting that her business concerns information about Princess Diana that directly relates to current royal security. She won't elaborate with anyone other than Prince William himself." Collins made a decision quickly. "Escort her to Conference Room 3. Full security screening, but treat her as a potentially friendly contact. I'll brief His Royal Highness immediately." As the security team moved to implement Collins's instructions, Marcus found himself thinking about Prince Louis's prediction of an old friend returning when needed most. The timing of this woman's arrival, just hours after Louis had shared that particular message, seemed too precise to be coincidental. 20 minutes later, Marcus received orders to position himself outside Conference Room 3 during the meeting between Lady Thornton and Prince William. As he took his post in the corridor, he could see through the partially frosted glass that the conversation was already intense. Prince William's posture suggested someone who was both deeply engaged and emotionally affected by what he was hearing. The meeting lasted for over an hour. When the door finally opened, Prince William emerged first, his expression showing a mixture of shock, gratitude, and something that looked like relief. Lady Thornton followed, and Marcus was surprised to see tears in her eyes as she shook hands with the prince. "Marcus," Prince William called, "would you please escort Lady Thornton to the green drawing room? I'll join you both shortly. There are some things she needs to share that relate directly to your responsibilities." As Marcus walked alongside Lady Thornton through the palace corridors, she spoke quietly, almost to herself. "These halls hold so many memories. Diana would be so proud of the man William has become, and of the children he and Catherine are raising." "You knew Princess Diana well, ma'am?" Lady Thornton paused in her walking, turning to study Marcus's face carefully. "You're the guard, aren't you? The one who has been listening to little Louis?" Marcus felt his blood turn cold. He had not been identified by name in any communication about the visitor, and the details about Prince Louis's experiences were known to only a handful of people. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm not sure what you mean." "Oh, my dear man, there's no need for concern. I know about Louis's gift because I have been in contact with Diana myself for the past several months. She asked me to come here today to share information that would help protect her family." Marcus stopped walking entirely. "Ma'am, I think perhaps we should continue this conversation in the presence of His Royal Highness." Of course. But I wanted you to know that Diana speaks of you with enormous gratitude. She says you've shown exceptional courage in believing what couldn't be rationally explained and acting on information that defied all logic." They had reached the green drawing room, a formal space used for meetings with distinguished visitors. Lady Thornton settled into one of the antique chairs with the ease of someone familiar with palace protocol, while Marcus positioned himself near the door, his mind racing through the implications of what he had just heard. Prince William arrived a few minutes later, accompanied by Inspector Collins and, to Marcus's surprise, the Princess of Wales. Catherine looked slightly pale but determined, suggesting that whatever Lady Thornton had shared was significant enough to warrant the involvement of both parents. "Lady Thornton has brought us information that changes our understanding of recent events considerably," Prince William began. "Margaret, would you please share with Marcus and Inspector Collins what you've told us?" Lady Thornton nodded, clasping her hands in her lap in a gesture that suggested she was preparing to share something deeply personal. "I met Diana in 1994 when she was going through the most difficult period of her marriage. We became very close friends. She needed someone outside the royal circle who could offer perspective and emotional support without agenda." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "After her death, I was devastated. We had been speaking regularly right up until that final trip to Paris. She had been so hopeful about her future, so excited about the work she was planning to do." Catherine leaned forward slightly. "William shared some of your conversation with us. You mentioned that you've continued to have contact with Diana?" "Yes, Your Royal Highness. It began about 6 months after the funeral. At first, I thought it was simply grief manifesting in dreams or wishful thinking. But the communications became too specific, too accurate about things I couldn't have known, for me to dismiss them as imagination." Lady Thornton looked directly at Marcus. "Diana told me about a guard at the palace who would soon become crucial to protecting her family. She described you in detail, Sergeant Hartwell, including your military background and the commendation you received for service in Northern Ireland that's not part of your official palace file." Marcus felt the room spinning slightly. The commendation Lady Thornton referenced had been classified, related to intelligence work he had done before joining palace security. There was no way she could have known about it through conventional means. Inspector Collins spoke for the first time. "What specific information has Princess Diana shared with you about threats to the royal family?" "The 4 individuals who were arrested this morning were part of a larger network. Diana showed me documents. I know how that sounds, but I could see pages and photographs during our communications. She guided me to investigate certain connections that led me to discover evidence of a coordinated campaign against the monarchy." Lady Thornton opened her handbag and withdrew a manila envelope. "Over the past 3 months, I've been directed to gather information from various sources. What I've uncovered is a systematic attempt to undermine public confidence in the royal family through leaked private information, manufactured scandals, and, eventually, a coordinated physical threat." Prince William took the envelope, his expression grim. You mentioned something about additional conspirators still at large. Yes, the 4 arrests this morning were necessary, but represented only one cell of the operation. There are at least 6 other individuals in various positions, some within palace staff, others in government offices, and several in media organizations, who are working together to create a crisis that would force major changes to the monarchy's role and structure. Collins was taking detailed notes. Do you have specific names and evidence? Everything is in that envelope. Diana guided me to sources and documents that your security services haven't yet discovered. She's been remarkably thorough in helping me build a case that will stand up to investigation. Catherine spoke quietly. Margaret, how has this communication with Diana been affecting you personally? This must be extraordinarily difficult. Lady Thornton smiled for the first time since the conversation began. Your Royal Highness, it has been both the most challenging and the most comforting experience of my life. Diana is at peace, but she remains deeply concerned about the welfare of those she loves. Speaking with her again has helped me process the grief I've carried for over 25 years, but it has also made me understand the enormous responsibility that comes with this kind of contact. She looked at Marcus again. She told me that young Louis is handling his experiences with remarkable maturity, but that he will need strong support from adults who understand the significance of his gift. She specifically mentioned that you, Sergeant Hartwell, have the right combination of skepticism and openness to help guide him. Marcus found his voice. What does she want us to do with this information? She wants the conspiracy stopped before it can achieve its goals. The plan involves creating a manufactured crisis around the time of the king's next major public appearance, which I understand is scheduled for next month. The goal is to create a situation that would force constitutional changes and significantly reduce the monarchy's influence. Prince William was studying the contents of the envelope, his expression growing darker as he read. This is remarkably detailed intelligence. If it's accurate, we're dealing with a threat far more sophisticated than what we discovered this morning. It is accurate, Your Royal Highness. Diana assured me of that. She also wanted me to tell you something personal. Lady Thornton's voice became gentler. She says she's immensely proud of the father you've become and the way you're protecting your children while allowing them to grow into their own persons. She's particularly proud of how you and Catherine are handling Louis's special abilities. Catherine wiped away tears that had started flowing during this message. Is she at peace? Is she happy? She is at peace, Your Royal Highness. But her happiness remains tied to the well-being of those she left behind. She watches over all of you constantly, and she feels deep joy when she sees the love and stability you've created for your children. Lady Thornton turned back to Marcus. She asked me to tell you that your role in protecting Louis is just beginning. He will continue to receive guidance from her, but not frequently and not predictably. Your job is to help him understand that his gift is both a privilege and a responsibility, and to ensure that he can live as normal a childhood as possible while occasionally serving as a conduit for information that protects his family. Inspector Collins had been quiet throughout this exchange, but now she spoke decisively. Lady Thornton, we'll need you to work with our intelligence team to verify and act on the information you've provided. If Princess Diana has indeed helped uncover a broader conspiracy, we need to move quickly to neutralize it. Of course, Diana told me to expect that request and to cooperate fully. She also said to tell you that she has complete confidence in your team's ability to protect her family. As the meeting concluded, Marcus found himself once again in the extraordinary position of having his reality reshaped by impossible circumstances. The revelation that Princess Diana was in contact with multiple individuals, providing detailed intelligence about threats to her family, elevated the situation far beyond anything he could have imagined. Walking back through the palace corridors after Lady Thornton's departure, Marcus reflected on the profound responsibility that had been placed upon him. He was not just protecting Prince Louis from conventional security threats, but helping a young boy navigate supernatural experiences that carried implications for the safety of the entire royal family. His secure communicator buzzed with a message from Prince William. Family meeting at 1900 hours. Louis will be briefed about expanded security protocols. Your presence requested. Marcus checked his watch. 2 hours to prepare for what would likely be one of the most important conversations in the young prince's life. The boy would need to understand that his special gift came with great responsibility, but also that he was surrounded by adults who believed in him and were committed to helping him use his abilities to protect those he loved. As Marcus made his way to begin his evening preparations, he found himself wondering what Princess Diana might reveal next, and whether an 8-year-old boy was truly ready to carry the weight of supernatural intelligence that could determine the future of the British monarchy. 2 days after his meeting with Deputy Chief Inspector Collins, Marcus found himself in the unusual position of having been officially assigned as Prince Louis's personal security liaison. The designation was unprecedented in his experience. Royal children typically fell under the protection of the general security detail rather than having dedicated individual guards. The fact that this arrangement had been approved at the highest levels told him everything he needed to know about how seriously the palace was taking the situation. The morning had started routinely enough. Marcus arrived for his shift at 5:30 a.m., reviewed overnight reports, and began his rounds of the family quarters. The Wales children were early risers, and it was not uncommon to see movement in their wing of the palace before 7 o'clock. What was unusual was receiving a message on his secure communicator at 6:15 a.m. from Prince William himself, requesting Marcus's immediate presence in his private study. Marcus had interacted with the Prince of Wales countless times over the years, but always in formal, professional contexts. Being summoned to a private meeting was both an honor and a source of considerable nervousness. As he made his way through the familiar corridors, Marcus found himself wondering how much the prince knew about recent events and what his reaction might be to learning about his youngest son's extraordinary experiences. Prince William's study was a room that perfectly balanced his roles as both heir to the throne and devoted father. Official documents and constitutional papers shared space with children's drawings and family photographs. The prince himself stood by the window overlooking the garden, still dressed in casual morning clothes, his expression thoughtful and slightly troubled. "Good morning, Your Highness." "Good morning, Marcus. Please have a seat. I think we need to have a rather unusual conversation." Prince William moved to his desk, but remained standing, his demeanor suggesting someone who was still processing difficult information. "Inspector Collins briefed Catherine and me yesterday evening about the security concerns that have been identified within the palace staff. She also shared some rather remarkable information about how those concerns came to light." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Yes, sir. She told us about Louis's experience in the memorial room and about the conversation you witnessed. I have to admit, my initial reaction was skepticism. But Catherine reminded me of something I had forgotten. Louis has been talking about Grandmother Diana for months now. We assumed it was simply his way of processing the stories we've told him about his grandmother and the photographs he's seen." The prince paused, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that seemed both familiar and deeply human. "But, looking back on his comments, there have been instances where he's demonstrated knowledge about my mother that couldn't have come from anything we've shared with him. Small details about her personality, her habits, even her sense of humor." Marcus remained silent, sensing that Prince William needed to work through these thoughts aloud before addressing the security implications. 3 weeks ago, Louis told Catherine that Grandmother Diana said she was proud of the charity work Catherine has been doing with early childhood development. He mentioned specific projects that we haven't discussed publicly and won't announce for another month. At the time, we thought perhaps he had overheard a private conversation, but now you're reconsidering the source of his information. Exactly. Prince William finally sat down, his expression earnest. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. My mother's death has been the defining tragedy of my life. The idea that she might somehow still be present, still trying to protect our family, is both the answer to my deepest hopes and the source of my greatest fears." Marcus nodded, beginning to understand the emotional complexity of the situation for the royal family. "If Louis truly is receiving guidance from my mother, then I'm grateful beyond words. But I'm also terrified about what this might mean for him psychologically and emotionally. 8-year-old children shouldn't have to carry the burden of supernatural experiences, especially ones that involve warnings about threats to their family. Your Highness, if I may, Prince Louis seems remarkably well-adjusted and confident. Whatever he's experiencing, it doesn't appear to be causing him distress. That's what Catherine observed as well. In fact, she said he seems more secure and peaceful lately, as if he knows something the rest of us don't. Prince William smiled slightly, which, apparently, he does. The prince stood and moved to a bookshelf where a silver-framed photograph showed a young Prince William with his mother, both of them laughing at some shared joke. Inspector Collins has recommended that we allow Louis to continue these encounters, if they occur, while ensuring he has trusted adults available to listen and respond appropriately. She suggested you for that role. I'm honored by the trust, sir. Marcus, you've served this family faithfully for over 2 decades. Your discretion and judgment are beyond question. But this situation requires something more than professional competence. It requires someone who can balance healthy skepticism with openness to possibilities that don't fit conventional understanding. Prince William returned to his desk and opened a leather portfolio. There's something else you should know. The 4 individuals your investigation identified have been under surveillance since Collins briefed us. Early this morning, MI5 intercepted communications that confirm our worst fears. Marcus felt his stomach clench. What kind of communications, sir? Thomas Wright, the household administrator, has been providing detailed information about our family's private schedules to a contact associated with several tabloid publications. More troubling, he's also been passing along security protocols and access codes to an individual whose background check reveals connections to organizations hostile to the monarchy. The implications hit Marcus immediately. An inside job to facilitate a more serious threat. Precisely. Dr. Hartley has been documenting medical information about all of us and sharing it with unauthorized parties. Angela Chun has been copying private correspondence and family communications. And Morrison has been creating opportunities for unauthorized personnel to access areas near our private quarters. Prince William's voice carried the controlled anger of a father whose family had been betrayed by people they trusted. What my mother somehow communicated through Louis has likely prevented a coordinated attack on our family's privacy, security, and possibly physical safety. Marcus absorbed this information with growing amazement at the accuracy of the warning Prince Louis had received. What happens now, sir? The 4 individuals will be arrested this morning on charges of breach of trust, violation of security protocols, and conspiracy. MI5 will conduct a comprehensive investigation to determine the full scope of their activities and identify any additional threats. Prince William closed the portfolio and looked directly at Marcus. Your role going forward is to serve as Louis's primary security contact and confidant. If he continues to receive information through these extraordinary encounters, you'll be responsible for evaluating it and reporting to Inspector Collins and myself immediately. I understand, sir. There's one more thing, Marcus. Catherine and I have decided to speak with Louis this afternoon about what he's been experiencing. We want him to know that we believe him, that we're grateful for the information he's shared, and that he can always come to us or to you if something like this happens again. The prince stood, signaling that the meeting was concluding. We also want him to understand that this gift, for lack of a better word, comes with responsibility. If my mother is indeed watching over our family and occasionally sharing guidance through Louis, then he needs to be prepared to handle that responsibility with maturity and wisdom. As Marcus prepared to leave, Prince William added, one final point. This conversation, and everything related to Louis's experiences, remains classified at the highest level. The number of people who know about this situation can be counted on one hand, and it must remain that way for the family's protection and Louis's well-being. Absolutely, sir. You have my word. Walking back through the palace corridors, Marcus found himself reflecting on the profound trust that had been placed in him. He was now part of one of the most extraordinary secrets in royal history, a secret that involved supernatural guidance from one of the most beloved members of the royal family and the protection of her youngest grandson. His secure communicator buzzed with a message from Collins. For arrest completed. No incidents. Briefing at 1,400 hours. Marcus checked his watch, 11:30 a.m. Prince Louis would be finishing his morning lessons soon and would have free time before lunch. Perhaps this would be an opportunity to begin establishing the new dynamic of their relationship. and to gauge whether the young prince had any additional encounters to report. He made his way to the family's private wing, where the children's tutoring sessions took place. The sound of young voices engaged in discussion carried through the closed doors. Princess Charlotte debating some point of history with her instructor, while Prince George worked through mathematical problems. Behind a third door, Marcus could hear Prince Louis reading aloud, his clear voice working through what sounded like an adventure story. As the lesson period ended and the children began emerging from their respective classrooms, Marcus positioned himself discreetly in the corridor. Prince George and Princess Charlotte greeted him with the casual familiarity of children who had known him their entire lives before heading off to their next activities. Prince Louis appeared last, carrying a stack of books and wearing an expression of mild concentration. "Good morning, Your Highness." "Oh, hello, Mr. Marcus." Louis's face brightened with a smile that was pure sunshine. "Did you know that pirates used to hide treasure on islands and make maps with X marks? I think that sounds like a brilliant way to remember where you put important things." "It does indeed, sir. Might I walk with you to your next destination?" "Of course. I'm going to the library to choose a book for quiet reading time." Louis fell into step beside Marcus, his short legs working to match the guard's measured pace. "Mr. Marcus, can I tell you something?" Marcus felt his attention sharpen immediately. "Always, Your Highness. Grandmother Diana visited me again yesterday evening. She said thank you for listening to what I told you and for helping to keep everyone safe. She seemed very pleased that the grown-ups believed me." Marcus kept his expression neutral while processing this information. "What else did she tell you?" Louis considered the question seriously, his young face showing the concentration of someone trying to remember important details accurately. "She said that the dangerous people have been caught, but that we still need to be very careful because there might be others who want to hurt our family. She also said something curious about someone new who will be coming to the palace soon." "Someone new?" "Yes, but she seemed happy about this person, not worried. She said this person will bring good news and will help Papa with some important work. She called them an old friend returning when needed most." Marcus made mental notes of every detail. The accuracy of Princess Diana's previous warnings had been completely validated, making this new information potentially significant for security planning. As they reached the library, Prince Louis paused at the entrance and looked up at Marcus with those remarkably perceptive eyes. "Mr. Marcus, are you going to be staying close to me more often now? Not that I mind. I like having you around. But it seems different from before." The directness of the question caught Marcus off guard. He had expected to ease into his new role gradually, but Louis's observation skills were clearly sharper than he had anticipated. "Your parents and the security team have asked me to spend more time with you." "Yes. Is that all right with you?" Louis nodded emphatically. "Oh yes, it's wonderful. Grandmother Diana said I could trust you completely and that you would help me understand how to use the special things I can hear and see to help our family. She said you have a very good heart and that you care about doing the right thing even when it's difficult." Marcus felt a profound sense of responsibility settling over him. This 8-year-old child was not only experiencing supernatural encounters with his deceased grandmother, but was also demonstrating remarkable maturity in understanding the significance of his gift. The trust being placed in Marcus by both the living and, apparently, the deceased members of the royal family was unlike anything he had ever experienced. "Prince Louis, you can always share anything with me, no matter how unusual it might seem. My job is to help keep you and your family safe, and sometimes the most important information comes from unexpected sources." Louis smiled, an expression of pure contentment. "I know. Grandmother Diana told me you would say exactly that. She's very wise about people." As Prince Louis disappeared into the library to select his reading material, Marcus found himself wondering what other revelations lay ahead. The investigation into the palace security breaches was concluded, but Princess Diana's warning about someone new arriving suggested that significant events were still unfolding. His communicator buzzed with another message, this one marked urgent. "Unknown individual requesting meeting with Prince William. Claims to have critical information about royal security. Arriving 1,600 hours. Enhanced protection protocols in effect." Marcus stared at the message, remembering Louis's words about an old friend returning when needed most. If Princess Diana's guidance had been accurate about the internal threats, perhaps her prediction about this mysterious visitor would prove equally significant. The afternoon would bring new challenges and possibly new revelations. Marcus checked his equipment, reviewed his protocols, and prepared himself for whatever extraordinary developments might emerge from this most unusual assignment. The days following Prince Louis's extraordinary revelation passed in a haze of careful observation and mounting tension for Marcus. He had spent countless sleepless hours replaying every detail of that impossible conversation, analyzing each word for clues while simultaneously questioning his own sanity. By day, he maintained his professional demeanor and carried out his duties with characteristic precision. By night, he pored over security files, staff records, and communication logs, searching for any indication that might support the warning he had received. 3 weeks into his investigation, Marcus had identified several concerning patterns that, taken individually, might have been dismissed as coincidental. Together, they painted a picture that made his blood run cold. There had been an unusual number of routine maintenance, visits to areas near the royal family's private quarters. Several staff members had requested schedule changes that would place them in positions to observe family movements more closely. Most disturbing of all, certain security protocols had been subtly modified by personnel who didn't have the authority to make such changes. Marcus was reviewing these findings in his small office in the security wing when his secure phone rang. The caller ID showed an internal extension he didn't recognize. Sergeant Hartwell speaking. "Marcus, we need to talk." The voice was crisp, authoritative, and belonged to Deputy Chief Inspector Sarah Collins, one of the highest-ranking security officials in the Royal Protection Unit. "My office. 10 minutes. The line went dead before Marcus could respond. He stared at the phone, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety form in his stomach. Collins was known throughout the palace for her sharp intelligence and unwavering loyalty to the crown. She was also known for her ability to uncover secrets that others preferred to keep buried. If she was calling him in for a meeting, it likely meant his discreet investigation hadn't been as discreet as he'd hoped. Collins's office was located in the secure administrative wing of the palace, behind multiple layers of access control and surveillance. As Marcus made his way through the corridors, he found himself acutely aware of every camera, every checkpoint, every face he passed. The paranoia that had been building since his encounter with Prince Louis was reaching uncomfortable levels. He knocked on Collins's door precisely 10 minutes after her call, his posture straight and professional despite the turmoil in his mind. "Enter." Collins's office reflected her personality, organized, efficient, and slightly intimidating. The walls were lined with security manuals, intelligence briefings, and photographs of various royal events where her team had provided protection. Behind her desk hung a single-framed photograph of herself with the late Queen Elizabeth II, taken during what appeared to be a private moment of conversation between two women who understood the weight of duty. Collins herself was a woman in her early 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical style and eyes that seemed to catalog and analyze everything they saw. She had been in royal protection for nearly 30 years, rising through the ranks on merit and an almost supernatural ability to anticipate and neutralize threats before they materialized. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Her tone was neutral, but Marcus detected an undercurrent of tension that immediately put him on high alert. "You've been busy lately, Marcus. Pulling files, running background checks, accessing communication logs. All very thorough, very professional. Would you care to explain what you're investigating?" Marcus felt his carefully prepared explanations dissolve under Collins's direct gaze. He had anticipated this moment might come, but he had hoped for more time to gather concrete evidence before having to reveal his activities. "Ma'am, I've noticed some irregularities in staff scheduling and maintenance protocols that concern me. I wanted to ensure they didn't represent a security risk." Collins leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. "Irregularities. That's an interesting way to put it. Would these irregularities happen to be related to a certain early morning incident involving Prince Louis approximately 3 weeks ago?" Marcus felt his world tilt slightly. How could she possibly know about his encounter with Louis? He had reported the prince's presence in the memorial room as a routine incident, a curious child exploring where he shouldn't, quickly and quietly returned to his family with no harm done. He had mentioned nothing about conversations with deceased royals or warnings about internal threats. I'm not sure I understand, ma'am. Marcus, you've been in this job long enough to know that nothing happens in this palace without someone noticing. That includes 8-year-old princes wandering into restricted areas at dawn, and experienced guards standing in doorways for extended periods instead of immediately intervening. Collins opened a file on her desk and glanced at it briefly before continuing. You were observed outside the memorial room for approximately 7 minutes before entering to retrieve Prince Louis. That's highly irregular behavior for someone with your training and experience. Combined with your recent investigative activities, it paints a picture of someone who encountered something significant enough to warrant a major security review. Marcus realized he was at a crossroads. He could continue to deflect and obfuscate, potentially damaging his credibility and his ability to protect the royal family. Or he could trust Collins with the truth, however impossible it might sound, and risk his career on the hope that she would believe him. Ma'am, what I'm about to tell you will sound completely unbelievable. Try me. Marcus took a deep breath and began recounting the events of that morning. Prince Louis's conversation with an unseen presence that claimed to be Princess Diana, the warnings about threats within the palace staff, and his subsequent investigation into those claims. As he spoke, he watched Collins's expression carefully, but her face remained professionally neutral throughout his account. When he finished, the office fell into a silence that stretched uncomfortably. Collins tapped her pen against her desk in a rhythm that suggested deep thought rather than nervous energy. That's quite a story, Marcus. Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of how it sounds. Collins stood and walked to her window, which overlooked one of the palace's private gardens. Tell me about your investigation. What have you found? Several concerning patterns, ma'am. Schedule changes that place certain staff members in positions to observe family movements. Maintenance requests for areas adjacent to private quarters that don't have documented justification. And modifications to security protocols that weren't properly authorized. Names. Marcus had hoped to avoid this moment a little longer, but Collins's direct question left him no choice. The patterns involve 4 individuals across different departments. James Morrison in facilities management, Angela Chun from the communications staff, Thomas Wright from the household administration, and Dr. Elizabeth Hartley from the medical team. Collins turned back to face him, her expression now showing the first hint of emotion he had seen. You've been thorough. Those are exactly the 4 individuals my team has been monitoring for the past 6 months. Marcus felt as though he had been struck by lightning. Ma'am, we've had concerns about information leaks for some time now. Nothing concrete, nothing actionable, but enough to warrant close observation. The 4 people you've identified have all exhibited behaviors that raised red flags with our internal security analysts. Collins returned to her desk and opened another file. What you've told me about your encounter with Prince Louis provides a new perspective on intelligence we've been gathering through conventional means. If we set aside the question of how an 8-year-old boy came to possess this information, the substance of what he shared aligns remarkably well with our existing concerns. Marcus struggled to process this revelation. You believe me? I believe that you encountered something that convinced you to launch a thorough investigation that led you to identify the same suspects we've been watching. Whether that something was supernatural intervention, remarkable intuition, or an 8-year-old boy with unusually sharp observational skills is less important than the fact that your investigation has produced actionable intelligence. Collins pulled out a phone and began typing a message. We're going to accelerate our timeline. Based on your findings combined with our existing evidence, we have enough to justify bringing in MI5 for a full investigation of these 4 individuals. What about Prince Louis, ma'am? How do we protect him if he continues to have these encounters? Collins looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect. That's exactly the right question to ask. Our first priority is ensuring the young prince's safety and well-being. If he's somehow receiving information about threats to his family, we need to create an environment where he feels safe sharing that information with adults who can act on it. She paused, considering her next words carefully. I'm going to assign you as Prince Louis's primary security liaison for the immediate future. Your role will be to monitor his activities discreetly and serve as his point of contact if he encounters any situations that concern him. Can you handle that responsibility? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Good. There's something else you should know, Marcus. This isn't the first time we've had reports of unusual experiences within these palace walls. The royal family has a long and complex history, and there have been other incidents over the years that defied conventional explanation but provided valuable insights into real threats. Marcus found this information both reassuring and deeply unsettling. How many others know about this? Very few. It's information that's shared only on a need-to-know basis among the most senior security personnel. The official position is that we investigate all credible intelligence regardless of source. The unofficial reality is that we've learned to pay attention when the impossible provides practical value. Collins stood, signaling that the meeting was nearing its end. I'll be speaking with the Prince and Princess of Wales this afternoon to brief them on our security concerns and recommend enhanced protection protocols for the immediate future. I'll also be having a conversation with Prince Louis, with his parents' permission, to help him understand the importance of sharing any unusual experiences with trusted adults. What should I do if he has another encounter? Listen carefully, document everything, and report to me immediately. Don't try to dismiss or rationalize what he tells you. If someone or something is looking out for this family's welfare, our job is to be receptive to that assistance while maintaining our professional responsibilities. Marcus stood as well, feeling simultaneously relieved and overwhelmed by this turn of events. Thank you for believing me, ma'am. Marcus, in this job, we deal with threats that come in many forms. Some are obvious: armed intruders, explosive devices, poison. Others are subtle: information leaks, insider threats, social manipulation. And, occasionally, we encounter something that doesn't fit any category in our training manuals, but still requires our professional attention. She walked him to the door, her expression serious. The royal family depends on us to protect them from all threats, conventional or otherwise. Your instinct to investigate rather than dismiss what you witness shows exactly the kind of judgment we need in this position. As Marcus left Collins's office, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders that he hadn't fully realized he was carrying. The isolation of keeping such an enormous secret had been wearing on him more than he had acknowledged. Having Collins's support and the validation that his investigation had merit gave him renewed confidence in his ability to handle whatever might come next. Walking through the palace corridors, Marcus found himself looking at familiar faces with new eyes. Somewhere among the dozens of loyal, dedicated staff members were 4 individuals who had betrayed the trust placed in them. The investigation would now move beyond his capabilities, but his role in protecting Prince Louis was just beginning. As he passed the memorial room where everything had started, Marcus paused briefly. The door was closed and locked, showing no sign of the extraordinary events that had taken place there. Yet he found himself wondering if unseen eyes were still watching, if the presence that had spoken through Prince Louis was still somewhere nearby, monitoring the situation. "Thank you," he whispered quietly, feeling somewhat foolish but compelled to acknowledge whatever force had set these events in motion. The corridor remained silent, but Marcus could have sworn he felt a gentle warmth pass through the air around him, like a distant echo of approval. Whether it was his imagination or something more, he chose to interpret it as confirmation that he was on the right path. His watch chimed softly, reminding him that Prince Louis would be finishing his afternoon lessons soon. It was time to begin his new role as the young prince's protector and confidant, ready to receive whatever impossible truths might next emerge from the innocent wisdom of a child who seemed to have an extraordinary connection to those who watched over his family from beyond. The morning mist clung to the windows of Kensington Palace like ghostly fingers, reluctant to release their hold on the ancient glass. Sergeant Marcus Hartwell adjusted his crisp uniform jacket and checked his watch. 4:47 a.m. 23 years of service to the crown had taught him that the palace held different secrets at this hour, when the world outside still slept, and only the most trusted guards walked these hallowed halls. Marcus had earned his position through unwavering dedication and an impeccable record. His colleagues respected him, his superiors trusted him, and the royal family had come to regard him as more than just security. He was a constant, reliable presence in their ever-changing world. At 45, he stood tall and alert, his graying hair neatly trimmed, his bearing that of a man who had served his country in the military before dedicating his life to protecting those who served the nation itself. The third floor of the palace was his domain during these early morning shifts. It housed the private quarters of several royal family members, including the Wales children. The silence here was different from anywhere else in the palace, deeper, more sacred somehow. Marcus knew every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the ornate light fixtures, every sound that belonged, and every one that didn't. He had just completed his hourly check of the corridor when he heard the soft patter of small feet. This wasn't unusual. The royal children were early risers, especially Prince Louis, who at 8 years old possessed an energy that seemed inexhaustible. What made Marcus pause was the direction of the footsteps. They weren't heading toward the family breakfast room or the library where the children often started their days. Instead, they were moving toward the restricted section of the floor, where certain rooms were kept off limits even to most palace staff. Marcus quickened his pace, his training kicking in automatically. He wasn't alarmed. The Wales children were known to be curious and adventurous, but his duty was clear. No one, regardless of their position in the line of succession, was to enter those particular rooms without proper authorization and supervision. He rounded the corner just in time to see a familiar small figure in dinosaur pajamas disappearing through a doorway that should have been locked. Prince Louis had somehow managed to slip inside what the palace staff privately called the memorial room, a space that held personal belongings and documents of deceased royals, maintained for historical purposes but rarely visited. Marcus felt his stomach drop. The room wasn't dangerous, but it contained sensitive materials, including letters, photographs, and personal effects that could be emotionally overwhelming for a child. More importantly, his failure to prevent this breach would reflect poorly on his performance and could result in serious consequences for his career. Moving swiftly but quietly, Marcus approached the doorway. He could hear movement inside, the soft rustle of fabric, the gentle displacement of objects being moved. He paused at the threshold, preparing to enter and gently guide the young prince back to his proper quarters, when he heard something that made him freeze in place. Prince Louis was speaking to someone. The voice that responded was impossibly familiar, sending a chill down Marcus's spine that had nothing to do with the palace's morning cold. It was a voice he had heard countless times during his years of service, a voice that had been silent for over 5 years. The voice of Princess Diana. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face as he processed what he was hearing. His rational mind immediately began searching for explanations. Perhaps Louis was listening to an old recording, or maybe someone had left a television or tablet playing in the room. But the conversation he was overhearing was clearly interactive, responsive, real-time. Grandmother Diana? Louis's young voice carried a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. Mama showed me pictures of you. She said you were very kind and that you would have loved me very much. The response came clearly, unmistakably in the voice Marcus remembered. Oh, my dear sweet boy, I do love you very much. More than you could ever imagine. I've been watching over you and your brother and sister since before you were born. Marcus's hand trembled as he gripped the doorframe. His training demanded that he investigate any unusual situation in the royal quarters, but every instinct in his body was screaming at him to retreat. What he was witnessing defied all logic, all understanding of the world as he knew it. Princess Diana had died in 1997, nearly 3 years before Prince Louis was even born. This conversation was impossible. Why can't the grown-ups see you? Louis asked, his innocent curiosity evident in his tone. Because sometimes, little one, the grown-ups' hearts become too heavy with sadness and worry. They forget how to see with the same clear eyes that children have. But you can see me, can't you? You can hear me. Yes, Louis replied without hesitation. You look just like in the pictures, but you're glowing a little bit. Are you an angel like Mama says? Marcus closed his eyes tightly, hoping against hope that when he opened them, this entire situation would resolve itself into something rational. But when he looked again, He could see through the partially open door the figure of Prince Louis sitting cross-legged on the Persian rug, apparently engaged in animated conversation with empty air. "I want to be like you," Louis continued. "Mama says you helped lots of people who were sad and sick. You already are like me, my darling. You have a kind heart and a generous spirit. But I need to tell you something important, something that the grown-ups around you need to know." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Whatever delusion or extraordinary experience was happening here, it was beginning to veer into territory that could have serious implications for the royal family. As the responsible adult and security officer, he knew he should intervene immediately. Yet something held him back. Perhaps it was the peaceful quality in Louis's voice, or the nagging feeling that this moment was more significant than he could comprehend. "What is it, grandmother?" Louis asked, leaning forward with the intent attention that children give to important secrets. "There are people in this palace, people who work very close to your family, who are not what they seem. They smile and bow and say the right words, but in their hearts, they wish harm upon those I love most." Marcus felt a cold sweat break across his forehead. Regardless of whether this was some kind of supernatural encounter or an elaborate psychological episode, the content of what Louis was hearing could create serious security concerns. If the young prince began repeating these claims to his parents or other family members, it could lead to paranoia, false accusations, and potentially dangerous situations. "But I thought everyone here was supposed to protect us," Louis said, a note of confusion entering his voice. "Most of them do, my sweet boy. Most of the people here would give their lives to keep your family safe. But there are a very few, who have allowed their hearts to be poisoned by jealousy and greed. They work in the shadows, passing information to people who shouldn't have it, creating problems for your parents when they should be offering solutions." Marcus realized he was holding his breath. The implications of what Louis was hearing were staggering. If there truly were security leaks or internal threats within the palace staff, this was information that needed to be reported immediately to the highest levels of security. But how could he possibly explain the source of this intelligence? "Should I tell Papa?" Louis asked, his young voice carrying the weight of someone much older. "Not yet, little one. First, we need to be very careful about who we trust. The person who should hear this first is someone whose job it is to keep your family safe, someone who has proven their loyalty through many years of faithful service. Someone who is listening right now." Marcus felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. The words seemed to be directed at him specifically, though such a thing was impossible. He was certain he had made no sound, taken no action that would reveal his presence. Yet the conviction in that familiar voice suggested knowledge of his exact location and situation. Louis turned toward the doorway where Marcus stood hidden in the shadows. The young prince's eyes, bright with intelligence and innocence, seemed to look directly at him despite the fact that Marcus remained concealed. "Is someone there?" Louis called softly. Marcus found himself faced with an impossible choice. His duty clearly required him to enter the room, secure the prince, and report this incident to his superiors. But doing so would end whatever was happening here, and despite its impossibility, he was beginning to sense that this moment might be more important than any other in his career. The voice continued, as if responding to Marcus's internal struggle. "Trust is the foundation of all protection, Louis. The man who is watching over you right now has kept his trust with your family for over 20 years. He has never betrayed a confidence, never failed in his duty, never placed his own interests above those he serves. He can be trusted with what you've learned here today." Marcus stepped forward into the doorway, no longer able to remain hidden. The morning light streaming through the room's tall windows illuminated Prince Louis clearly, but Marcus could see no other presence, no source for the voice he had been hearing. Yet the sensation of being observed by unseen eyes was overwhelming. "Hello, Mr. Marcus," Louis said with the casual familiarity of a child who had known him since birth. "I was talking to Grandmother Diana. She says you're one of the good ones." Marcus struggled to find his voice. In his years of service, he had been trained for every conceivable emergency: armed intruders, medical crises, natural disasters, even terrorist threats. But his training had never covered supernatural encounters or the possibility that a deceased royal might return to share intelligence about security threats. "Your Highness," he managed to say, his voice steadier than he felt. "Perhaps we should return you to your room. Your parents will be wondering where you are." Louis stood up, brushing dust from his pajamas with the careful precision his mother had taught him. "Grandmother Diana says the bad people are planning something soon. Something that will hurt Mama and Papa if we don't stop it. She says you'll know what to do." As Louis walked toward the door, Marcus felt the temperature in the room shift subtly, as if a presence that had been there was now departing. The feeling of being watched faded, leaving behind only the normal morning quiet of the palace and a young boy who had just shared the most extraordinary and troubling conversation of Marcus's life. Walking beside Prince Louis through the corridor, Marcus found his mind racing through possibilities and protocols. If there truly was a threat to the royal family, his duty was clear: investigate, verify, and protect. But the source of this information defied all rational explanation, making any official report impossible. As they reached the door to the Wales family's private quarters, Louis paused and looked up at Marcus with eyes that seemed far too wise for his age. "She's really watching over us, isn't she, Mr. Marcus? Even though we can't always see her, she's still trying to protect us." Marcus knelt down to the boy's level, looking into that earnest young face. "What do you think, Your Highness?" Louis smiled, an expression of pure innocence mixed with something deeper. "I think love doesn't stop just because someone goes away. And I think sometimes, when people we love are in danger, love finds a way to help, even from very far away." As Marcus watched Prince Louis slip quietly back into his family's quarters, he realized that his life had just changed irrevocably. Regardless of what had truly happened in that memorial room, he now carried information that suggested a threat to the royal family. His duty demanded investigation, but his rational mind struggled with the source. Standing alone in the corridor as the morning light grew stronger, Marcus made a decision that would define the remainder of his career. He would investigate these claims quietly, carefully, using all his skills and connections to determine if there was any truth to what Prince Louis had shared. If there were indeed threats within the palace walls, he would find them and neutralize them, regardless of how impossible his source of information might seem. The secret was his to carry now, and with it came the weight of protecting not just the royal family's safety, but also the extraordinary trust that had somehow been placed in him by a voice from beyond the grave and the innocent wisdom of an 8-year-old prince. As Marcus resumed his patrol, he could feel the palace around him differently than before. Every shadow seemed deeper, every face potentially suspect, every routine interaction colored by the possibility of hidden agendas. The voice's warning echoed in his mind. There were people here, people close to the family, whose loyalty was compromised. His investigation would begin immediately, quietly, carefully. The safety of the royal family depended on it, and Marcus had never failed in his duty to the crown. He wouldn't start now, regardless of how extraordinary the circumstances had become. In the shadowed corridors of Kensington Palace, where whispers carry more weight than proclamations and secrets dance behind gilded doors, one moment changed everything. A young prince's innocent words would soon unravel a web of deception that reached the very heart of the British monarchy. What 8-year-old Prince Louis witnessed in those quiet early morning hours wasn't just a breach of royal protocol. It was a revelation that would test the loyalty of those sworn to protect the crown, challenge the foundations of centuries-old traditions, and force a seasoned royal guard to question everything he believed about duty, honor, and the true cost of keeping royal secrets. This is the story of how truth, spoken through the honest voice of a child, became the most dangerous force within the palace walls.